You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're just standing at the start of your next chapter. And here's the truth nobody tells you. You don't need to have it all figured out to begin. The world loves to glorify the finish line, but what matters most is that you simply start. Right here, right now, with what you have, with where you are. Because the people who win in life aren't the ones who had the perfect plan. They're the ones who chose not to stay stuck. This book is not about excuses, it's about execution. It's not about waiting, it's about walking forward. You don't need permission to chase the life you want, you just need courage to begin. So if you've been searching for a sign, this is it. The power of starting ugly. Most people wait until things are perfect before they begin. They wait until they feel confident, until they have the right tools, the right timing, the right connections. But perfection is a trap. It paralyzes people who are too afraid to be seen starting small, starting messy, starting imperfect. The truth is, every success story you admire began with something rough, unpolished, and uncertain. Amazon started in a garage. Apple started in a garage. Walt Disney got fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity. None of them had the luxury of perfection when they started, but they had one thing in common. They started anyway. The idea of starting ugly means you begin before you're ready. You show up even when your voice shakes, when your website sucks, when your product is halfway decent at best. You launch your YouTube channel with bad lighting. You write your first blog post even if it makes you cringe. You offer your service even if your first few clients are your cousins. Because ugly action beats pretty ideas every single time. Action is the great separator. There are people far less talented than you making moves, getting paid, changing their lives simply because they were brave enough to begin. There's a false belief that the world will laugh at you if you don't get it perfect from day one. But the truth is, most people are too busy with their own lives to care. And those who do watch you, they'll respect you more for starting despite the fear. People don't relate to perfect. They relate to progress. They want to see your growth. They want to witness your climb. Starting ugly gives them that permission. It shows others that it's okay to be a beginner, that it's okay to be flawed, that it's okay to be real. When you look back at anything great you've done, chances are it didn't look great at first. Your first job, your first date, your first speech, your first attempt at anything worthwhile, it probably wasn't pretty, but it was necessary. That ugly start is part of your story, not something to hide, but something to honor. It's what built your grit, your humility, and your hunger. Everyone wants to skip to the polished version of themselves, but skipping the struggle means skipping the strength. There's power in being scrappy, in using what you have, not what you wish you had. There's power in showing up to the world before the world thinks you're ready. When you start ugly, you open yourself to feedback. You grow faster. You learn more. You become resilient. Waiting until things are perfect might make you feel safe, but it also keeps you stuck. Your fear of judgment, of failure, of not being good enough. It all grows stronger the longer you wait. The only way to silence that fear is through action. Movement creates momentum, and momentum is more powerful than motivation. You don't need $1 million plan to get started. You need a $5 action. Something small, something bold, something real. Maybe it's a call, maybe it's a post, maybe it's recording your first 60-second video on your phone. Whatever it is, do it. Embrace the awkwardness, embrace the stumbles, embrace the ugly, because that's how confidence is built. Not before the leap, but during the fall and after the landing. The most dangerous thing you can do is sit on your potential and convince yourself that someday will be better. Someday isn't a day on the calendar. Someday is a graveyard for dreams. The people who change their lives are not the ones who start when they feel ready. They're the ones who start and figure it out along the way. Your messy start is your power. Your courage to begin, despite the doubt, is what separates you from the crowd. You don't need to have all the answers to take the first step. You just need to move. Start where you are. Start with what you've got. But for God's sake, just start. Stop waiting for the right time. One of the most common lies we tell ourselves is that we'll begin when the time is right. When we get out of debt. When the kids are older. When we're not so busy. When we feel more motivated. But here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. There is no perfect time. Life will always throw noise, distractions, and obstacles your way. Waiting for perfect timing is like waiting for all the traffic lights to turn green before leaving your driveway. If you do that, you'll never go anywhere. The right time is a myth. It's a safety blanket we cling to because we're scared of starting. It sounds reasonable, it feels responsible, but it's a trap in disguise. People use the excuse of timing as a way to avoid facing fear, rejection, or discomfort. And the longer you wait, the more paralyzed you become. Opportunities don't stick around forever. They pass by quickly, looking for someone brave enough to act. Success doesn't come to those who plan endlessly. It comes to those who move, adapt, and commit, even when it's inconvenient. You can have all the ideas in the world. You can read every book, attend every webinar, and write the most detailed vision board, but if you never take action, all that knowledge becomes a waste. You don't need more information, you need more implementation. There are people with fewer resources, less education, and more challenges than you, and they're ahead simply because they started. They didn't wait for clarity. They acted their way into it. That's the difference. The truth is, action creates clarity. You won't figure everything out before you begin. You figure things out along the way. You learn faster by doing than by thinking. Every step forward reveals the next one. But if you sit still, paralyzed by planning and fear, the road ahead will remain hidden. You want life to give you a guarantee, but life rewards those who take a leap without one. The longer you wait, the louder the voice in your head gets, the one that tells you you're not good enough, that you're too late, that you're unprepared. That voice never goes away. It only gets weaker when you start moving. There will never be a day when your schedule is wide open, your finances are flawless, your mindset is bulletproof, and everyone around you supports your dream. If you're waiting for all those stars to align, you'll be stuck in the same place a year from now, frustrated, restless, and bitter. People don't regret starting, they regret waiting. They regret the time they lost. They regret the chances they didn't take. The idea that later is safer is a lie. Later is uncertain. Later is risky. Later often becomes never. Start now, even if it's small. Start when it feels uncomfortable. Start when it doesn't make sense. That's where the real growth is. Every moment you hesitate, someone else is getting closer to the goal you want. They're not better than you, they just decided to act. Don't let fear disguise itself as wisdom. You don't need permission to begin. You don't need applause. You just need to move. One action leads to the next. Momentum builds. And suddenly, what felt impossible becomes normal. There's never a perfect moment to change your life. There's only now. Now is the only thing that's real. If you can move now, even just a little, you start to build power. You build trust with yourself. You stop being the person who talks and start being the person who walks. That shift alone can change everything. It rewires your brain. It restores your confidence. It teaches you to bet on yourself, even when the odds aren't perfect. The people who win are those who stop stalling and start stepping, not later, now. Use what's in your hands. Too many people believe they need more to begin. More money, more followers, more knowledge, more support. They keep looking at what they lack, convincing themselves that if they only had X, Y, or Z, then they could finally start. But success rarely comes from having everything. It comes from using everything you already have. The people who make the biggest moves aren't always the ones with the most tools. They're the ones who master the few tools they've got. They see value in their current position and squeeze the potential out of what's already in their hands. Resourcefulness is more valuable than resources. It's the mindset that says, I may not have everything I want, but I'm going to make the most of what I've got. That shift in perspective changes everything. The phone in your pocket can become a studio, a business platform, a content machine. The people you already know can become clients, partners, or mentors. If you stop waiting for someone better to show up, the skill you've been downplaying might be the very thing that opens the next door. But if you keep overlooking what's right in front of you, you'll keep living beneath your potential. Think about the most impactful entrepreneurs, artists, or leaders. Most of them started with almost nothing. They didn't wait for the stars to align. They didn't complain about what they didn't have. They looked around, saw what was available, and got to work. They flipped old tools into new results. They traded comfort for action. They built from scratch and trusted the process. You don't need $1 million investor to build something meaningful. You need hustle, heart, and the humility to begin with what's already in reach. The reason most people don't use what they have is because they undervalue it. They compare their starting point to someone else's highlight reel and immediately feel defeated. But comparison is the thief of momentum. When you're busy envying what someone else built, you lose sight of what you could build yourself. Maybe your equipment isn't fancy, your network isn't elite, or your education isn't prestigious. So what? That's not your disadvantage, that's your story. That's what makes your climb powerful. It's not about how perfect your tools are, it's about how persistent your effort is. You've got something right now, a skill, an idea, a talent, a story, a drive that somebody else needs. You don't have to be the best, you just have to be brave enough to begin. Start with what's in your hands. Record the video, make the pitch, offer the service, share the message, sell the product. Whatever you have, however small it feels, use it. Action transforms average into extraordinary. The key is movement, not magic. The world is filled with stories of people who turned their limitations into leverage. The person who started a cooking channel with nothing but a phone and a countertop. The mum who launched a blog during her child's nap times. The man who built an online brand from his bedroom after work. None of them had perfect setups. They just had passion and a refusal to wait. You're not stuck. You're equipped more than you realize. The problem isn't what you don't have. It's what you're not using. When you start seeing your current situation as enough to begin, you take your power back. You stop waiting for better circumstances and start creating better outcomes. That's how real success is built. Not by waiting for more, but by doing more with what's already yours. Every big movement started as a small, imperfect decision to use what was already there. You have something in your hands right now that can change your life, if you just stop ignoring it. Discipline over motivation. Motivation feels good, but it's not reliable. It comes and goes like a breeze, and the mistake most people make is waiting for it to come back before they take action. They think, when I feel like it, I'll do it. But winners don't rely on feelings, they rely on discipline. Discipline is showing up whether you feel like it or not. It's the commitment to do what needs to be done, long after the excitement has faded. It's waking up early when you're tired, staying focused when you're tempted, and moving forward when it's uncomfortable. Motivation might get you started, but only discipline will keep you going. The world is full of people who start strong and fade quickly. They post their goals, set big intentions, buy fancy planners, but as soon as the initial fire dies out, so does their progress. Why? Because they were relying on a mood, not a mindset. Discipline doesn't care about moods. It doesn't wait for the stars to align or the perfect playlist to kick in. Discipline is your ability to keep showing up for yourself, your goals, and your future, no matter what the day feels like. That's the muscle that separates the average from the unstoppable. Think about anyone you admire, whether it's an athlete, a business leader, or a high performer in any field, and behind every success story is a mountain of discipline. Early mornings, repeated routines, boring reps, sacrifices, and countless days when they pushed through the resistance. That's what builds excellence. Not talent alone, not passion alone, not even motivation alone, but daily, gritty, uncomfortable discipline. The kind where you choose to keep a promise to yourself even when no one is watching. That's where self-respect is built. And without self-respect, success doesn't last. People think discipline is restrictive, but the opposite is true. Discipline creates freedom. It gives you control over your time, your habits, and your outcomes. It allows you to create your own structure instead of being ruled by chaos. When you have discipline, you don't waste hours procrastinating, regretting, or catching up. You already know what needs to be done, and you get to work. You don't leave your future up to chance. You build it step by step, day by day, task by task. And discipline isn't just about grand gestures. It lives in the small decisions, choosing water over soda, a book over a scroll, sleep over one more episode, showing up at the gym, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Those small, consistent choices compound into massive transformation over time. That's how legacies are made, not in one big moment of motivation, but in 1,000 small moments of discipline. The results may not show up immediately, but the habit will, and the habit is the real victory. Because once the habit is locked in, the results become inevitable. The hard part is the beginning. Building discipline feels uncomfortable because it goes against your brain's desire for comfort and convenience. But just like training a muscle, the more you practice it, the stronger it gets. What feels impossible today will feel automatic in a few months. And every time you choose discipline, you send a signal to your brain that you are someone who follows through. That identity shift is priceless. You go from someone who hopes to win to someone who expects to win, because you've put in the work. You won't always be motivated, you won't always feel inspired, but you can always choose discipline, and that choice over time will change everything. Not just your results, but your confidence, your self-worth, and your life. It's not about getting hyped, it's about getting consistent. That's the real secret. Discipline is hard, but regret is harder. And the person who wins is not the one who's the most excited, it's the one who keeps going when the excitement disappears. The enemy called excuses are seductive. They sound smart, logical, and comforting. They give us a way out without admitting fear, laziness, or doubt. But every excuse is a lie dressed as a reason. It's a voice that says, "Not now," when you know you should start. It whispers, "You're not ready," when deep down, you're just afraid of failure. Excuses keep people stuck in the same place for years, defending their limitations instead of breaking them. And the more you repeat an excuse, the more you start to believe it's true, until it becomes part of your identity. That's when it gets dangerous, when the excuse becomes who you are instead of what you're fighting. Most people don't fail because of lack of talent or opportunity. They fail because they allow excuses to become their operating system. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I've tried before and it didn't work. These sound like valid concerns, but they're often shields we use to avoid discomfort. The truth is, time can be made, energy can be renewed, and past failures are lessons, not dead ends. But as long as you believe your excuses, they will run your life. You'll always find a reason to wait, delay, or give up, and your dreams will rot while you rationalize. Excuses don't start as lies. They usually begin with a feeling, a hesitation, a moment of self-doubt, a bad day. Instead of pushing through, we give that feeling a voice, and that voice becomes an excuse. Then we dress it up in logic and call it wisdom. But wisdom takes action, and excuses delay. Excuses make you feel safe in the moment, but cost you dearly in the long run. They rob you of momentum, confidence, and ultimately success. And the worst part is, you don't even notice it happening. You just wake up months or years later wondering why nothing's changed. One of the hardest things to do is confront your own excuses head on. To ask yourself, is this really true, or is this just comfortable? Most of the time it's comfort. It's fear disguised as logic. Growth never happens in comfort. The moment you stop challenging your own excuses is the moment you stop growing. And if you stop growing, you start dying inside. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You must learn to call yourself out before life does. You must become the kind of person who refuses to let temporary feelings write your long-term story. Excuses don't need to be loud to be deadly. Sometimes they show up as delay tactics, over-planning, waiting for more information, needing just one more day. Other times they show up as blame, blaming your boss, your past, your parents, your partner, the economy, the algorithm. But as long as you're blaming something external, you're giving away your power. Ownership is the antidote to excuse. The moment you decide, this is my responsibility, you take back control. You stop waiting for someone else to fix it and start becoming the person who does. There's no successful person on the planet who didn't have excuses available to them. They had every reason to quit, to delay, to doubt, but they chose to act anyway. That's the difference between average and extraordinary. It's not the absence of excuses, it's the refusal to live by them. Every time you silence an excuse with action, you get stronger. Every time you override your feelings with follow-through, you gain confidence. And every time you catch yourself making an excuse and choose the harder road instead, you level up. You stop being a prisoner of your circumstances and start becoming the architect of your future. Chapter 6. Fail forward, not backward. Failure is not the end. It's a part of the journey, not a detour from it. Yet most people treat failure like a wall instead of a stepping stone. They fall, get embarrassed, and decide it's not worth trying again. But the truth is, failure is how winners learn. It's feedback in disguise. It's life's way of revealing what doesn't work so you can find what does. Every successful person has a long list of failures behind them, moments where they could have quit but chose to push forward. They didn't let failure define them, they let it refine them. When you fail, it hurts. There's no sugarcoating that. You feel exposed. You question yourself. You wonder if maybe they were right, the people who doubted you, the ones who said you weren't cut out for this. But pain has a purpose if you're willing to face it. It teaches humility, builds resilience, and burns away your ego. It shows you who you are when things don't go your way. Some people use that pain as proof they're not good enough. Others use it as fuel. They take the loss, analyze it, learn from it, and come back stronger. That's how you fail forward. Failure backward is when you take a hit and use it as an excuse to retreat. You tell yourself stories like, I'm just not that kind of person, or maybe success isn't meant for me, but that's not truth. That's fear. Failing forward means you fall, but you fall with direction. You hit the ground, but you use the ground to push yourself back up. You refuse to stay down. And every time you rise after a fall, you grow. You become a different person, wiser, tougher, more prepared. The version of you that succeeds doesn't exist without the failures that shape you. The biggest breakthroughs often happen right after the biggest breakdowns. That's because failure breaks your patterns. It forces you to evaluate what's real. It strips away the illusion that everything will go smoothly and replaces it with reality, which is that anything worth doing will involve setbacks. You'll lose money, you'll lose confidence, you'll lose sleep. But what you gain from pushing through those moments is priceless. You gain belief in yourself, you gain clarity, you gain grit, and those are the things that can't be taught in books or bought with money. One of the worst mistakes people make is trying to avoid failure altogether. They only take safe steps. They overanalyze every decision. They stay in their comfort zone because it's familiar, not because it's fulfilling. But the irony is that avoiding failure is the fastest way to fail. You end up stuck, restless and regretful, all because you chose safety over growth. Failure isn't the opposite of winning. It's part of the path to winning. If you're not failing at something, you're probably not trying anything new. And if you're not trying anything new, you're not growing. Failing forward is a mindset. It's deciding in advance that setbacks won't break you, they'll build you. It's knowing that the pain of falling short is temporary, but the pain of quitting lasts forever. Every failure carries a lesson, but only if you're brave enough to extract it. You have to get honest about what went wrong, take full ownership, and adjust your approach. That's how progress is made. You try, fail, learn, try again, and eventually you win, not because you never fell, but because you never stayed down. No one escapes failure, but those who succeed know how to use it. They don't take it personally. They don't let it crush their identity. They see it as data, as redirection, as training. The faster you stop fearing failure, the faster you'll start building success. Failure isn't a sign you're off track. It's often proof that you're getting closer. So don't run from it, run through it. Let every fall sharpen you. Let every mistake teach you. That's how you fail forward, and that's how you grow into someone who can't be stopped. The people you surround yourself with have more influence on your future than almost anything else. Your circle determines your standards, your mindset, your habits, and your ambition. If you're surrounded by people who constantly complain, make excuses, and settle for average, it becomes nearly impossible to rise above it. Not because you're weak, but because energy is contagious. You absorb the attitudes, expectations, and behaviors of those closest to you, whether you realize it or not. That's why one of the most important decisions you'll ever make is who you allow into your space. If your circle doesn't challenge you, it's limiting you. You need people who call you out when you're playing small, who push you to think bigger, act braver, and do better. You need people who celebrate your progress, but won't let you settle for comfort. Too often we hold on to friendships, environments, or communities simply because they're familiar, not because they're healthy. We confuse loyalty with stagnation, but staying loyal to people who drain you or keep you stuck isn't loyalty, it's self-sabotage. The harsh truth is that growth creates distance. When you level up your thinking, not everyone will come with you. Some will resent your drive, others will feel threatened by your progress, and some will try to pull you back because it makes them feel better about not moving forward. You have to be okay with that. Not everyone deserves access to your time, energy, or vision. That doesn't make you arrogant, makes you intentional. Your life is too important to be shaped by people who aren't going anywhere. Take a close look at your current circle. Who inspires you? Who drains you? Who supports your growth? And who laughs at your goals? These questions matter because your environment either amplifies your potential or suppresses it. You can't expect to thrive in a space that doesn't believe in excellence. You can't grow into your best self while surrounded by people committed to mediocrity. It's like planting a seed in dry soil. No matter how much potential is inside, it won't flourish without the right conditions. Sometimes, upgrading your circle means creating distance. It means spending less time with the familiar voices that keep you small and more time with people who make you uncomfortable in the best way. People who talk about vision, not gossip. People who focus on progress, not problems. People who are ahead of you, not behind you. Being around greatness forces you to raise your standards. It holds a mirror to your own life and exposes what needs to change. And yes, it can feel intimidating, but that pressure is where the transformation begins. If you don't have those kinds of people in your life yet, don't panic. Start by becoming that person for yourself. Be the one who holds yourself accountable. Be the one who reads, who learns, who disciplines their habits. As you grow, you'll attract others on the same path. Your circle will evolve as you evolve. It's not about cutting everyone off. It's about creating space for alignment. Real growth requires real support, and that support often comes from people who are chasing the same kind of purpose. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's not just a quote, it's a warning and a roadmap. If your circle reflects where you've been more than where you're going, it's time to adjust it. Surround yourself with people who make you better, who speak life into your goals, who remind you that greatness is possible and then expect you to prove it. Because when your circle grows, so does your ceiling, and the higher your ceiling, the higher your life can rise. Focus is the silent multiplier of success. It's not the number of things you do that determines how far you go. It's how deeply you commit to the few things that actually matter. The problem is we live in a world that glorifies multitasking, distractions, and busyness. But being busy is not the same as being productive. Scattered energy produces scattered results. You can't build something meaningful if your attention is constantly bouncing between 10 different things. Real momentum comes from sustained attention, and that requires focus like a laser. Every time you shift your focus, you lose time and energy. Your brain has to re-engage, reprioritize, and rebuild momentum. That constant switching might feel like you're doing more, but it's actually making you less effective. Successful people don't chase everything. They choose one path, one mission, one goal, and they give it everything they've got. They don't quit when it gets boring. They don't get distracted by shiny objects. They lock in and they keep pushing. That's how results stack up. That's how impact is made. The reason most people struggle with focus isn't because they're lazy. It's because they're overwhelmed. They try to do too much, too fast, and end up burned out or spinning in circles. The key is to simplify. Choose one main goal, one area of mastery, one project that moves the needle, and then commit to it with discipline and intensity. Follow one course until success. When you narrow your focus, you amplify your power. You stop watering 10 different seeds and start nurturing one tree until it bears fruit. Focus also requires boundaries. You can't say yes to everything and expect to stay aligned. Every yes is a no to something else. If you say yes to distractions, you say no to depth. If you say yes to temporary pleasure, you say no to long-term growth. Focus demands that you protect your priorities. That means shutting off notifications, blocking out time, and getting clear on what deserves your energy. You have to become ruthless with your schedule and intentional with your attention. If you don't control your focus, the world will control it for you. Another reason focus is so powerful is because it builds trust with yourself. When you commit to one thing and see it through, you prove to yourself that you follow through. That self-trust compounds. You stop second-guessing, you stop hesitating, you start moving with clarity and conviction. That's when you become unstoppable. Not because everything is easy, but because you're locked in on what matters most, and you refuse to be distracted by anything less. Laser focus also eliminates the mental clutter. When you know your target, you stop wasting energy on things that don't align. You don't need to entertain every opportunity or respond to every opinion. You're not trying to be everywhere or please everyone. You're dialed in. That mental clarity gives you power. You wake up with direction. You work with purpose. You rest with peace, because you know you gave your best to what matters most. The most successful people in the world are not doing everything. They're doing a few things with extraordinary focus. That's the blueprint. Simplicity, discipline, and consistency. One goal, one mission, one win at a time. It's not about how fast you move, it's about how focused you are while moving. A laser can cut through steel because all its energy is concentrated. That's the kind of focus you need. When you bring that kind of attention to your goals, nothing can stand in your way. You don't need more time or more talent. You need more focus. Small steps equals big shifts. Massive change doesn't begin with massive action. It begins with something small, repeated consistently over time. The world often sells the lie that transformation is about giant leaps, all or nothing moves, or overnight success. But the truth is, the people who truly change their lives do it one small step at a time. It's not glamorous. It's not always visible. But it's powerful because small steps create momentum, and momentum creates transformation. You don't need to take on everything at once. You just need to keep moving, even if that movement feels tiny. When you set out to improve any area of your life, whether it's your health, your mindset, your career, or your relationships, the temptation is to go big. You want fast results, quick wins, instant gratification. But what often happens is you burn out, you get overwhelmed, and you quit. That's why small steps matter. They bypass resistance. They sneak past the fear and the excuses. They allow you to build habits without triggering your internal alarm system that screams too much. Small steps are less intimidating, which means you're more likely to follow through. What seems small today can become a force tomorrow. Drinking more water, reading 10 pages a day, journaling for 5 minutes, doing 10 push-ups, turning off your phone an hour earlier. These habits may look insignificant on the surface, but they build discipline, identity, and consistency. Every time you complete a small action, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. And when you do it again and again, that identity gets locked in. You go from someone who tries to someone who does. That shift is everything. One of the biggest reasons people stay stuck is because they overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They get discouraged when they don't see instant results and convince themselves that it's not working. But progress is not always loud. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's invisible, like the roots of a tree growing underground. You may not see change right away, but it's happening. And one day, the results show up, not because of a single big move, but because of hundreds of small, steady ones. The compound effect of small steps is one of the most underrated forces in life. Every great achievement is made up of tiny choices stacked on top of each other. It's the athlete who trains when nobody's watching, the entrepreneur who works late on weekends, the writer who puts in 1 page a day. These people understand that greatness is built in the shadows, not the spotlight. They don't need height, they need habits. And those habits are built by choosing progress over perfection. The beauty of small steps is that they're always available. You don't need a massive budget, a huge following, or ideal conditions. You just need willingness. The willingness to show up today, even if yesterday was a mess. The willingness to keep walking, even when the pace feels slow. The willingness to believe that consistent effort beats occasional brilliance every time. Small steps are the most honest form of work because there's no shortcut, no applause, no instant payoff. It's just you and the decision to keep going. When you embrace the power of small steps, you take back control. You stop waiting for big breaks and start creating daily wins. And those daily wins add up. They build confidence, they build character, they build results. The key is to start where you are and commit to one action you can take today. Not someday, not when you feel ready, today. Because one small step in the right direction, consistently taken, will lead you further than 100 big ideas never acted on. What you tell yourself matters. Your thoughts shape your reality more than your circumstances do. What you say to yourself when no one else is listening becomes the foundation of your identity. The internal dialogue you allow to run through your mind on repeat eventually becomes your belief system. And those beliefs determine how you act, how you respond to challenges, and how far you go in life. If your inner voice is filled with doubt, fear, and negativity, it will sabotage your potential before the world ever gets the chance to. But if that voice is strong, kind, and focused, it becomes your greatest weapon in any battle you face. Most people walk through life with a broken record of self-criticism playing in their heads. They replay past mistakes, they predict failure before trying, and they talk themselves out of action with phrases like, "I'm not good enough," "I always mess this up," or "that's just who I am." Over time, those words dig deep into their identity. They stop taking risks, they stop dreaming big. They start settling. The real problem isn't what happened to them. It's what they've been telling themselves ever since. Your inner voice has the power to push you forward or hold you back, and too many people are letting it destroy them quietly. Changing your self-talk doesn't mean lying to yourself or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing words that are aligned with growth, strength, and truth. It means interrupting the cycle of doubt with phrases like, "I can figure this out," "I've made it through worse," and "I am capable." These aren't empty affirmations. They are mental commands that rewire your mindset and shift your focus. When you speak strength into your own life, you start to behave differently. You stand taller, you show up bolder, you fight longer. That shift in energy changes everything, not because the world is different, but because you are. Affirmations are often misunderstood. Some people think they're cheesy or pointless, but what you repeat, you start to believe, and what you believe, you act on. That's why successful people guard their self-talk like it's sacred. They don't let doubt take the wheel. They don't allow fear to narrate the story. They speak to themselves with authority and conviction because they know that mindset isn't just part of the game. It is the game. If you keep telling yourself you can't, you won't. If you keep telling yourself you're a beginner and that's why you're bad, you'll stay there. But if you start telling yourself you're learning, you're growing, and you're improving, everything starts to shift. Your words become your world. The way you talk about your day, your goals, your obstacles, it all matters. If you speak in problems, you'll drown in them. If you speak in solutions, you'll find them. That's not toxic positivity. That's mental strategy. It doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you choose to influence how you face it. And the most powerful way to do that is to train your mind to respond with strength instead of fear. That training happens through repetition. You don't say something once and expect your mindset to shift. You say it daily, intentionally, until it becomes the new default. One of the fastest ways to upgrade your mindset is to write and speak your own truth out loud. Not the truth others gave you, not the labels the world stuck on you. Your truth, who you really are, who you're becoming, what you're capable of. Build a daily practice of speaking those truths into your life. Say them when you wake up. Say them when you're scared. Say them when you fail. Say them until you start to believe them. Because once your inner voice starts cheering for you instead of tearing you down, everything on the outside begins to follow. Pain is a signal, not a stop sign. Pain has a purpose. Most people run from it, numb it, or hide it. They treat pain like a warning to back off, a signal that something's wrong and they should stop. But pain is not the enemy, it's a messenger. It's a signal that growth is happening, that something inside you is being stretched, challenged, or refined. When you treat pain as something to avoid, you miss the breakthrough hiding inside it. When you see it as something to face and work through, you turn it into power. Everyone experiences pain. It's universal. What separates the strong from the weak isn't the amount of pain they go through, it's how they respond to it. Some people let pain define them. They wear it like a badge, and it becomes their story. Others let pain drive them. They take that fire and use it to fuel something greater. Pain doesn't mean stop. It means listen. It means learn. It means there's something deeper trying to get your attention. Whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, pain often reveals areas of your life that need healing, attention, or change. There's a kind of pain that comes from doing hard things, like training your body, building your business, healing from heartbreak, or breaking a toxic habit. That pain is productive. It's part of the process. It hurts, but it leads somewhere. Most people give up too early because they expect growth to feel good all the time, but growth is uncomfortable. It's supposed to stretch you. The discomfort is proof that you're leaving your comfort zone behind, and every time you choose to lean into that pain instead of retreating from it, you become stronger. Running from pain only makes it grow. When you avoid it, it festers. When you suppress it, it leaks out in other areas. You end up snapping at people, procrastinating on your goals, doubting your worth, or numbing yourself with distractions. But when you face pain head-on, you take away its control. You acknowledge it, you feel it, and then you decide what to do with it. That's where real strength is built, not in the absence of pain, but in your response to it. You don't become tough by pretending pain isn't there. You become tough by walking through it anyway. Pain is also a teacher. It reveals what matters. It reveals your limits. It reveals your resilience. Some of the greatest transformations are born out of the darkest moments. The divorce, the betrayal, the failure, the rock bottom. Those moments hurt like hell, but they also wake you up. They strip away the noise. They force you to look inward. And in that space, if you're willing to be honest with yourself, you can discover a version of you that's been buried under fear and comfort. Pain pushes you toward your potential. It calls out the greatness inside you. You can't numb the pain and grow at the same time. You have to choose. One leads to temporary relief. The other leads to long-term strength. If you use pain as an excuse to quit, you'll keep restarting the same cycles. But if you use it as fuel, you'll move into a version of yourself you didn't even know was possible. Pain is part of the process. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to respect, because pain that is processed becomes wisdom. Pain that is endured becomes strength. Pain that is transformed becomes purpose. You can't wait for a pain-free life to chase your goals. That life doesn't exist. What you can do is stop letting pain stop you. Let it sharpen you. Let it teach you. Let it stretch you. Let it remind you that you are alive and you are capable of rising through whatever comes. Pain is a signal, not a stop sign. It's the body's way of saying, keep going. Something's happening. Don't give up now. And if you listen, if you press forward instead of turning back, you'll find that pain isn't where your story ends. It's often where your strength begins. You already have enough to begin. The most dangerous myth in the world is the belief that you need more before you can begin. More money, more connections, more confidence, more clarity. This belief quietly steals dreams and delays action. It convinces people to wait, to hold back, to stay small. But the truth is, most people aren't lacking resources. They're lacking belief. You already have what you need to start. You have experience, instinct, time, energy, and creativity. You have your story, your voice, your mind. All of these are tools, but none of them will matter if you keep waiting for something else to arrive. Every person who ever did something great started with less than they wanted. They didn't have perfect plans, full support, or a guarantee that it would work. They started with what they had and figured the rest out along the way. The idea that you need to be fully prepared before you begin is a lie. Preparation is important, but it's not a prerequisite for action. In fact, real preparation often happens after you start. The learning, the adapting, the growing, those things are shaped through movement, not stillness. You get better by doing, not just by thinking. Fear will try to convince you that you're not ready. It will tell you that if you take a step now, you'll fail or fall short. But fear isn't trying to protect you. It's trying to control you. And the more you listen to it, the louder it gets. The way to quiet fear is not to argue with it, but to act in spite of it. Every small step you take proves fear wrong. Every decision you make in the direction of your dream strengthens your confidence. And that confidence compounds over time, transforming who you are and what you believe you're capable of. You don't need a full roadmap, you just need the courage to take the first step. Clarity doesn't come before the journey, it comes during it. Most people sit on the sidelines waiting for certainty, while the people who win are already in the game, figuring things out as they go. The world doesn't reward perfection, it rewards movement, it rewards persistence, it rewards the ones who show up again and again, using whatever they've got. You have more power than you think, and the only way to discover it is to start using it. It's easy to compare yourself to others and feel like you're behind, but comparison is a distraction. You're not on their timeline, you're on yours. And your journey doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be valid. The key is to stop waiting to feel worthy and start acting like you are, because the moment you do, things begin to shift. You walk differently, you speak differently, you dream bigger. The power you've been searching for has been inside you all along. The key is unlocking it with action. Every day you wait is a day you could have been building. Every excuse you accept is a brick in the wall between you and your future. But every step you take, no matter how small, tears that wall down. One decision, one action, one move forward. That's all it takes to begin rewriting your story. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be willing. Willing to show up, willing to learn. Willing to believe that what you have is enough to begin. Because it is. The beginning doesn't require perfection, only intention. So, stop waiting. Start now. Start where you are. Start with what you have. And trust that the rest will come when you do. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You just need to move. One of the most powerful lessons from this book is that action is always more valuable than waiting. The myth of the right time is one of the biggest traps that holds people back. People spend years preparing, planning, and hoping for circumstances to line up perfectly. But life rarely works that way. There's always going to be some level of uncertainty, discomfort, or fear. The people who break through are not the ones who waited until they felt ready. They're the ones who took action even when they didn't. Starting messy, starting scared, or starting without all the answers is not a weakness, it's a strategy. The act of beginning unlocks momentum, and momentum is what breeds clarity, confidence, and opportunities. This simple mindset shift, from waiting for perfection to taking imperfect action, can change the entire direction of your life. It's not about having everything, it's about using what you already have. The moment you stop waiting and start moving is the moment your life starts to shift. Your habits and focus determine your future, not your talent. Another major takeaway is the undeniable power of daily discipline and laser-sharp focus. Talent can give you a head start, but it's your habits that determine whether you finish the race. The world is filled with talented people who never achieved anything significant because they lacked the discipline to stick with the hard, boring, uncomfortable parts of the process. On the flip side, there are countless examples of average people who became exceptional by showing up every single day. Discipline is doing the right thing when you don't feel like it. It's pushing forward without applause. It's waking up early, staying late, and keeping promises to yourself. When you combine that kind of discipline with focused attention, choosing one goal, one mission, one path, you unlock a level of power that most people never tap into. Focus cuts through noise. Discipline builds resilience. Together, they create a future that's not based on potential, but on progress. Success doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the few things that truly matter with everything you've got. Your mindset is either your prison or your power. The third transformational lesson is about the story you tell yourself. Your mindset, your self-talk, your beliefs, your inner dialogue will either hold you back or push you forward. Most people don't fail because of external obstacles. They fail because of internal limitations. They tell themselves they're not smart enough, strong enough, or worthy enough, and eventually they believe it. But that voice in your head is not always telling the truth. It's often repeating old fears, past failures, or someone else's opinion. The moment you take control of your internal dialogue is the moment everything else begins to change. When you shift your language from "I can't" to "I'm learning," from "I've failed" to "I've grown," you begin to rewrite your identity, and identity drives behavior. If you want to change your life, start by changing how you speak to yourself. Remind yourself daily that you are capable, resilient, and enough, because what you believe internally will manifest externally. You can either be your biggest critic or your loudest coach. Choose the voice that moves you forward. These three lessons are more than ideas, they are strategies for transformation. Start with what you have, show up with discipline and focus, and master the voice inside your head. That combination will take you further than any amount of money, luck, or connections ever could. You don't need to wait, you don't need to be perfect, you don't need to have it all figured out, you just need to start exactly where you are. Understanding powerful concepts is only half the battle. Applying them in your daily life is where the real transformation happens. The lessons from Start Where You Are aren't just motivational ideas, they are practical, usable tools that can reshape how you live, work, think, and grow. Here's how to apply them in real life starting today. Start before you're ready mindset. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, pick one task you've been putting off and take the first step, no matter how small. If you've been thinking about launching a side business, don't wait for the website, the logo, or the perfect product. Begin by researching your market or recording a short video about your idea. If fitness has been on your mind, don't wait for the perfect gym membership or workout clothes. Start with 10 push-ups in your living room. The key is movement. One tiny step creates energy. That energy builds momentum. Over time, momentum builds results. Turn daily habits into your secret weapon. Set 3 non-negotiable habits that align with your long-term goals and commit to them for the next 30 days. These habits should be simple but powerful. Things like journaling for 5 minutes each morning, reading 10 pages a day, or drinking more water. Discipline is built through repetition, not emotion. On days when you don't feel like it, do it anyway. On days when you're busy, make time. These habits will anchor your day and give you small, repeated wins, the kind that slowly but surely build the life you want. Use a simple calendar or habit tracker to check off your progress. Each mark is proof that you're choosing action over excuses. Clean up your circle. Take inventory of the people you spend the most time with: family, friends, co-workers, online voices. Ask yourself honestly, who inspires you and who drains you, who pushes you forward and who keeps you stuck. You don't need to cut people out of your life overnight, but you do need to be intentional with your time. Limit the energy you give to toxic or negative influences. Instead, seek out those who are already living at the level you want to reach, whether in person, online, or through books and podcasts. Surround yourself with voices that challenge you to be better, not those that give you permission to stay the same. Rewire your self-talk. Each morning and evening, speak life into yourself. Write down 5 positive affirmations that reflect the person you are becoming. Things like, I am disciplined, I figure things out, I am capable of doing hard things, I don't quit, or I'm worthy of success. Read them out loud, say them with belief. When negative thoughts creep in, catch them and replace them with your truth. Over time, your inner voice will shift from critic to coach. That shift will influence every action you take, every challenge you face, and every goal you pursue. Use pain and failure as fuel. The next time something goes wrong, whether it's a failed project, a tough conversation, or a moment of self-doubt, resist the urge to retreat. Instead, pause and ask, what is this teaching me? What can I use from this experience to grow stronger? Journal about it. Extract the lesson. Make a new plan. Failure stops being final when you turn it into a teacher. Failure stops being final when you treat it as feedback. This mindset will allow you to keep progressing no matter how rough the road gets. Conclusion. The message of Start Where You Are is not just about motivation. It's about movement. It's about turning ideas into action, fear into fuel, and potential into performance. You apply it not by waiting for a perfect day, but by waking up and choosing to do the work today, tomorrow, and the day after. Keep your steps small, your focus clear, your habits consistent, and your mindset sharp. The results will take care of themselves. You've just taken a powerful journey through the mindset, habits, and truths that separate the people who stay stuck from those who rise. If there's one thing to take away from this entire book, it's this: you already have what it takes. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be willing to take one bold step in the direction of your purpose again and again. Start before you feel ready. Show up even when no one's watching. Speak life into yourself when the world tries to silence you. And when it gets hard, because it will, remember, That's proof you're growing. Discipline will carry you when motivation fades. Small actions will move you when fear tries to freeze you. And your story will change the moment you decide to take control of the pen. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not behind. You are right on time and right on purpose. All you need to do now is start where you are. If this book lit a fire in you, do one more thing. Don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to our channel for more life-changing content that keeps you moving forward. Like this video if it spoke to your journey. Comment below with your favorite lesson and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready to take things deeper, grab your copy of Start Where You Are in audiobook, ebook or print, because your future is waiting and it begins with one decision. Start now. Start small, but whatever you do, just start.